My next short film is about a financially struggling restaurant owner and her deputy husband, who find their lives intertwined with two young thieves, forcing them to confront their crumbling marriage, her looming abortion, and the question about what truly makes a family. And over the next 15 weeks, I'm going to be here in Portland, Oregon working as to fund this motherfucker. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you everything I'm doing from front to back to make sure that I come back to Utah with the finished screenplay.
So I came in to fix up the place because it's only when I'm relaxed and free to make as little sense as possible that inspiration comes. But just as I was about to get ready, naturally, I began to think about Allen Iverson, and Messi, and Napoleon, and the great leaders who surely had a whiteboard, but I had forgot mine at home. But I never forgot the goals: to make a bag, to write the script, to lose 10 pounds, and to be ready for pre. And so, I went looking for the inspiration. First, I needed to take care of my body. That would help my wallet by spending less and my mind by staying on topic. But what I didn't know is that this newfound cardio habit would lead me straight to my chapel. You see, I had left Utah, but I could feel that there was still some sort of residual religious energy in the air. And then the Holy Wind came. And then there she was, dressed in black and red, like a piece of licorice that couldn't make up its mind. So, like a good Christian, I died, and resurrected 3 days later to come back and rank 3 films who've had an enormous impact on this one: Goodfellas, Boogie Nights, and Magnolia. The through line between these films is that they revolve around an ensemble cast, and it's the entire cast that makes the narrative compelling. I have an ensemble cast too, but the problem is I don't have 2 hours, I have 20 minutes. And with 4 characters, 5 minutes per character, it was important that I understood where they were emotionally to begin with, so I could figure out where they were going to end up and properly pace the film.
Now, all of these things are just meant to stimulate me, so I can sit down and write and not just stare at a blank page. And it allowed me to know that, number one, I was telling a surrogacy story. It helped me identify where the story was going to start, the middle, and the end. And those things, as much as I learned, never changed. But the one thing that always did was my pacing. I didn't know how much I could really connect these people within 20 minutes. And the thing that really helped me work on that was reading Judith Weston's Directing with Actors. Specifically, and I knew this was going to be great because in the first chapter, she talks about fixing result-oriented direction, which is something that I and a bunch of young directors have issues with. It's basically asking an actor, hey, be more funny, or hey, can you do an effect, as opposed to, okay, you want me to get to this result, but how do I do it? It's about creating playable action. And the reason that that was so useful for me is because, for instance,
there is no such thing as acting homeless. These are people whose lives are centered around survival and who deserve our respect. Therefore, I have to see it through their eyes, specifically through the eyes of an 11 and 16-year-old pair of homeless brothers. How would they survive? How could I show them doing it in a way that always reflected their longing for a home? And to answer these questions, I inevitably have to make it personal. And so I brought my heritage into it.
Alright guys, I'm in fucking binging with Babish mode right now. We're making mandocas. So, yeah, I put the brown sugar in this bitch. Next, harina pan, plátano amarillo. Boil this, and then you take out the seeds from the inside, right? And then you mix it with the harina pan. Now, personally, for me, I don't like Venezuelan cheese. I find that it's way too artery clogging, if you will. So we have some Mexican cotija cheese.
Both the mandocas and my family originate from Maracaibo, Venezuela, which is located in the Zulia state. With the pretzel shape, I slightly whitewashed this and made it more audience-friendly and named the film Zulian Pretzel, because these mandocas are cheap enough to imagine the kids surviving off of them, selling them, and probably cooking from a recipe that their now dead mom had shown them. And knowing that that's who they were, I could begin to develop them and pace the film. But first, I had to go back to my other life and answer the question that everybody loves to ask.
You see, it sounds strange, but I wake up every day with one goal, and that's to make sure that one day I can just live one life, because for now I'm living two. You see, the way I'd explain it is, my friends are healthy, my girlfriend's healthy, my family's healthy, but often I feel sick, and I'm sick because I live a silent drama with no real stakes, but I can't exactly show it. I've got, like fucking 60 hours left this week, so we're gonna power through. You see, it's the act of living a life that denies my voice in the hopes that this calculated effort will allow film to be my full-time career. And I've been working at this goal for 761 days, and I know more are coming. But it was especially hard during this time because I couldn't shoot.
I couldn't afford to if I was going to make this film. And even if I could, my friends were back home. My girlfriend was back home. My family was back home. And living two lives isn't so bad when there's people who support you, who know who you really are. But when all you can come home to is a movie, that's really when the illness creeps in. That's really where I felt sick. And so instead of running, I walked. The next thing I know, I lost my appetite. Instead of eating, I fasted. And I knew I couldn't keep on like that, so I had to remind myself why I was doing all this. And I visited the place where these characters would spring to life, where I wanted so badly for them to exist.
So I suppose now's as good a time as ever to talk about why I want to make this film. On the surface, very simple film. These two homeless cooks find a home. This woman finds her way into motherhood. And this man stumbles his way into fatherhood. You know, in the end, they all find a family. They all find a home. And on a very grounded level, it really just is about working within a kitchen. But it's really about family. You know, it's a surrogacy story. And I think that the thing that these kids need most is just someone to support them, to support their hard work. The reason I say that is because when you guys see the film, which, you know, it'll be a while, but I know eventually you guys will see it, you'll see that they have a very salesman-like approach. They're very, it's almost like they've got a foot ahead on the adults. They know more than they should despite their age. But on the back end of the film, when it all comes crumbling down, you see in reality that they're these very vulnerable children who have gone through way too much for their age. And in the end, all they really need is the arms of a mother. You know, the arms of their father. And I really feel like 95% of the problems that all of us have can be solved just by that.
And then, my landlord gave me a great lesson on screenwriting. He taught me that drama comes from people trying to meet their needs. That week I worked 72 hours, so I had a need to come home, marry my bed, and not clean a single thing. But it turns out, he had a need to breathe through his nose. And then one morning, I get this text.
Hi, Harold. We can no longer tolerate the smells coming from your room. We'll be inspecting the room on Thursday morning. If the room and garbage can are not thoroughly cleaned by then, we'll have a cleaning company come by to clean it for you. And that expense will be deducted from your deposit. This is just a warning. Give me a call. Thank you.
Naturally, I thought this was racism. But then I stopped and I was like, well, wait a sec. This guy might have a point. Last night, I caught a whiff of something at the door. So I got off, I came back, and lo and behold... There's a bunch of rotten trash, and mainly the dough from the mandocas that I forgot to put in a bag. All that to say, drama comes from a conflict of needs, and after this, I was ready to come back to life. I made sure to disassociate every day at work, got serious, and started to write my ass off, and I began to learn a few things about this screenplay. Every time my dialogue sounded wrong, it was usually because I was using a noun. The film opens on Valeria phoning Planned Parenthood to schedule an abortion, a noun. But every time she said it, it sounded fake. We're gonna see her consistently avoid confrontation in this film, and I just don't think that she would say this, namely because it may evoke feelings of shame or guilt. And that reminded me of a scene in Boogie Nights where the exact same thing happens, where the colonel is giving a confession to Jack about why he was arrested. Now, because of these feelings of shame and guilt, he dances around the subject, and so he never actually says what it is. But we know what it is. Then I remembered a section from Directing Actors about listening, and instead of writing Valeria's dialogue, I just pretended that she was one of my patients. I wrote it from the perspective of the Planned Parenthood rep, and from there, I came up with their dialogue. Now, is this the best dialogue in the world? No, but the noun has been removed, it feels more natural, and it conveys exactly what I need in the scene. After a while, I finally started to get comfortable in Oregon.
but it was time to go back home. So, like LeBron, in a year or two, I did a farewell tour. I lost those 10 pounds. I went on one last run. I watched a comfort movie, went to the chapel, turned it in, and then quickly left before I had to pay my late fees. Went to check up on the homeless camp. They'd actually been vacated for a fire that happened there, but they came back anyways, so. Finished the script, the 8th draft, treated myself to a rotisserie chicken, packed up all my shit, and left to start Pre. But before I went, religion returned to the air, and I got to see 2001 in 70mm. And then I left. Alright, and you will notice that this whiteboard is completely cleaned off because we've met all our goals. And the one thing that I didn't talk about was the money, because film found me in nursing school. So I was out there on a travel nursing contract to be able to fund this. But we came back and we realized pretty quickly that I did not have enough money. And at the same time that this happened, Camp Studios, by Creator Camp, they released an application for 12 filmmakers that are from the internet to apply for a short film grant and to then screen it in Austin. And we got in. And I don't know. It's just, you make your luck or it happens to you or whatever, but that's really what has allowed us to keep moving forward, to be able to get this grant. And the first version of this film screens April 26th and 27th in Austin, Texas. And if you're there, come. I want to talk to you. I want to see what you think about the film. And I'm very excited to see people's reactions. And on the note of everything that we've seen, in this film, every single character starts out in one place and ends up in another. And it's always a matter of growth, right? And for me, as a person, if I am going to try to bring that arc to these characters, if I'm going to try to present a truth to you, I have to be honest with myself. And I have to analyze my own arc. I know a lot of people in this life, a lot of people who are trying to do creative things that live the same life that I do, but they don't share it online. And in their defense, I completely understand. It's really not the best thing for business, and it lacks a certain level of professionality if you're going to be able to be honest about it, you see. But for me, this is a form of therapy. And if I can practice it in my own life, I know that my writing is beneficial. And I see it this way. If I start here and become here, then that's an arc. I grow as a person. I'm satisfied with myself. But if I was already here, I would flatline. I really wouldn't be happy. There would be no growth. I'd be looking for something else. And so right now, at this version in my life, I'm right here. And for everybody else who feels that way too, I get you. And I have faith that we will get to where we're going. But I think it's important to acknowledge where I'm at, you see? And so with a little BTS like this, it's really like, yes, it is a bit invasive for me, to be honest. But it's that intimacy, it's that honesty, it's what I'm looking for in a film. So how could I not practice that myself? And the last thing is if you find yourself in the hospital and your nurse is late with your meds, just know that it's because they're writing a script in the break room.